Third Pillar not only offers the world's leading business solutions, but we aim to offer a new breed of consulting, one focused and obsessed with identifying our customers' challenges and implementing transformative solutions, giving you a partnership you can rely on. We offer solutions in customer relationship management, marketing automation, e-commerce, data management, and e-procurement. All our solution partners share our vision. Our subject matter experts will help guide you into the new era. So, what challenge can we help you solve? Let's figure that out together. Start your transformation journey with us today. Third Pillar is always willing to help you solve your challenges with tomorrow's technology.
I was at a hackathon that had mostly guys in it back home in the Philippines, and I met this girl who bonded with me over like our frustration over the gender gap, and I had told her about like the WeTech blog and what I had been doing, and she said, okay, why don't we like collaborate on something? And I said, okay, if we create like events like this hackathon but more centered towards inclusivity and technology and like celebrating stories of women in tech. I have this dream that any Filipino youth can grow up and feel like tech is as welcome to them as just like any other person. And that when they think of somebody in the tech industry, it isn't like a set gender, race, or like socioeconomic like, background. We also want to keep on bringing these secondhand laptops to different public schools. We want to keep reaching more students who have never heard of technology before. The overall goal is to be able to reach like every public high school that doesn't have tech equipment. We hear these really great stories of how tech is being used to connect people from around the world, to solve like world issues. By giving and promoting tech accessibility, we're widening the ability for young people to be able to create their own solutions. We're hoping to give the resources that hopefully can enable future Filipino change makers to really thrive. That's what we think can not just help with like the development of the Philippines, but like the world as a whole. Because we acknowledge that in order to solve like really key world issues, like say like global hunger, like the water crisis, we need as many like diverse perspectives as possible. We're trying to equip those like marginalized communities and groups with like the resources they need to join those discussions about tech.
Hi, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for providing us your time today to watch this webinar. My name is Diana Rubiano, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Third Pillar. And thank you once again for joining us for our webinar, The Power of Now. Now, let me introduce our really, really exciting panelists. I'm so excited to get you guys to understand their stories and their inspiration. I think you have lots of learnings from today, and we really appreciate feedback. So do let us know any comments that you have. You could either message us during the webinar if you have any questions for the panelists, or after, and our email address will be appearing straight after the webinar. So let's get started. So without further ado, let me introduce our Chief Customer Experience Head, Ms. Amor Balekdaz. So Amor has recently joined us, and she has a background in financial services for almost 2 decades. And you can't tell because she is ageless like any other Asian person. She has also built her career in strategic and brand marketing, business development, customer experience and engagement. And while working for multinational companies, she has gained vast experience, for dealing with marketing and deep customer experience, which is why she joins Third Pillar. So we're really, really excited to have Amor as part of our team, but also as part of this webinar. So hi, Amor, welcome.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And then next, I'd like to introduce Ms. Vanina Dabuena. She is our Chief Operations Officer, and again, with such an extensive background. She's got 26 years in the telco industry. She also joins Third Pillar, and again, you can see the ageless Asian beauty over here. And with Fins as well, she has got so much robust kind of experience in the telco, but also outside of the telco, how do you transform? And she's also created her own business. So she's very, very knowledgeable and empowered businesswoman. And last but not least, we want to introduce our special guest, Miss Audrey P. So she is the founder and executive director for YTech, a non-profit organization that promotes gender diversity and innovation in the industry. Audrey, in a young age, she had to face or had to overcome quite a lot of challenges from people just telling her that technology might not be something that a young girl should get into. And we really want to understand how she overcome these challenges and learn a little bit more about YTech and what she's really doing to push that gender or to bridge that gender gap and create equality within inside the industry. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for providing us your time. How is everyone?
Good, Dee. Thank you for hosting this, and pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited, and I was saying to the ladies, we're international waters. Audrey, you're in California?
Yes, I'm calling from Stanford, California.
And Vanina and Amor are in the Philippines, and I am here in the UK. So definitely some international waters happening in different time zones. So thank you, ladies, once again, and kind of let's get started. Audrey, I've got some really interesting questions for you. We really love the story about how you had to overcome that challenge of your teacher telling you that this is an industry that might not be suited for you, but you were resilient enough to just go, no, this is something I'm passionate about and I really want to push. And that's just for me to kind of set the story for everyone. So what we really want to know is what were the challenges that you faced when you started to think about building YTech, and how did you overcome these challenges? And maybe explain to everyone about YTech a little bit and give them a context, and then go through the challenges and how you solve them.
For sure. Thank you again so much for having me. My name is Audrey Pe. I'm the founder and executive director of WeTech, which is short for Women in Technology. We are a global youth-led nonprofit organization based in the Philippines, but with now 20 chapters spread out across 10 countries around the world that aims to educate, inspire, and empower youth to break gender barriers and use tech to make a difference in society. We did this through hosting the first Women in Tech conference for students and by students in the Philippines, as well as having an outreach program wherein we go to different low-income areas of the Philippines, and we taught over 100 students basic CS skills and basic skills like Microsoft Office as well, so computer literacy programs of that sort. I remember growing up. Oh, thank you so much. I just remember very much growing up, I was never really nudged into going to the field of tech, and I just really encountered tech by chance when a teacher, when under the Philippine curriculum, we had to take this computer class that had very little to do with programming and more to do with Microsoft Office. So think about Word, PowerPoint, Excel. And I didn't make much of tech until one day my teacher decided to go completely off curriculum and introduced us to this game where a snake had to navigate a maze using blocks that represented lines of code. And I remember thinking for the first time in my life that this is what the technology that I pretty much rely on and use on a day-to-day basis is made of, code. And I found it so fascinating that I too could learn this mysterious and exciting language of computers. So I asked my teacher if we would be learning more about programming, and I was told that no, it's not part of the Philippine curriculum, but if I was really keen on learning more, I could go online and access a bunch of free resources there. And that's what I did for the rest of middle school and early high school. When I wasn't studying, when I wasn't in clubs, I would be sat in front of my laptop Googling how to learn how to code or free computer science tutorials, and picked up a lot of free resources along the way. I found sites like code.org where Anna and Elsa create snowflakes using blocks that represent lines of code. I went on Codecademy where I learned like basic HTML, Java, JavaScript. I encountered Harvard's introductory CS lectures, just all up for free on YouTube, and slowly kind of built up this knowledge base that got me very excited about a potential career in tech. But when I entered high school, I started getting asked all these really scary questions about my future and like what I wanted to study. And when I said that I wanted to go into tech, I got a lot of mixed responses. And for instance, my parents, I love them to bits and pieces, but they both came from business backgrounds and they really know how to guide me in tech. My peers were very surprised and said I was very brave for wanting to go into tech because I was the only girl in my entire class that wanted to do so. The guys would even joke that, oh, they didn't know I was into video games because to them, technology exclusively meant video games, whereas I was already kind of thinking about technology for social good and how to really optimize that. But the feedback, as you mentioned earlier, that really hit me the hardest is when a teacher told me that she didn't think I was a good fit for tech. And that really got me thinking, why does she think this way? And why does it like instinctually, I kind of agree with her. And I realized it was because when I thought of the big role models in the tech industry, I thought of Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, basically middle-aged white guys that I had very little in common with. And that thought process of like, where are the women in tech and why don't I know their stories? So a simple Google search, women in tech, led to me finding out about how, according to the Philippine Startup Survey, only 18% of startup founders in the Philippines are women. And internationally, according to PayScale, women in tech are paid 18 to 22% less than their male counterparts, which is insane. And I think in hindsight, like those are the things that I think in hindsight could have gotten me thinking, my 15-year-old self thinking, maybe I should not go into a field where I'll be underpaid, underrepresented, and given like less opportunities in just because of my gender. But instead I got really, really angry and I thought, what can I do as a 15-year-old Filipino girl to help impact the tech industry, make it more equal so that many, like hopefully not that many years from now, young girls like me no longer like feel the same obstacles that young girls currently face in terms of tech. And that's kind of how WeTech got its start.
Brilliant. And then what kind of challenges did you face when you were creating WeTech? Because obviously you then created this amazing foundation, right? And you started to get a lot of traction within your own community of young girls. But did you kind of face different people telling you like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't understand why you're trying to push women in technology, and especially at your age?
Oh, definitely. I think while there was definitely a pushback in terms of my gender, there was also a pushback in terms of my age. So back in 2016, when I founded WeTech, there were very few youth-led nonprofits, much less like nonprofits led by 15-year-old girls. And naturally, and I just faced a lot of pushback in that people were saying, why are you doing this? Like, why don't you like kind of like wait your turn and like wait until you get older, wait until you graduate, wait until you get work experience. But instead of, I just really felt this very, very strong pull to do something, anything, at 15 to help break these gender barriers in tech, because I felt as if I just like physically couldn't not do something. I felt this way because I was really just tired of this mindset that like us young people have to like wait until we get older to start before making a difference in the world. And I thought that like, how are we expecting the world to change if we're not doing anything like actively currently, if we're always making excuses and kind of like procrastinating the change that we wish to see in the world. And just like that in mind helped me like push back against a lot of like the very like ageist remarks that I received. But it's been difficult, not gonna sugarcoat it. I feel like a lot of what I also struggled with.
No, and that's what we want to hear. We want to hear the difficulties.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. And I think just I
we
struggled
love hearing the difficulties just to understand how we could progress, right? and what advice you could give to people that are kind of thinking about it right now.
Mhm. Yeah, something that I feel like I went through that a lot of other young founders, female founders specifically, go through is just this struggle of not being taken seriously in a lot of these male dominated spaces. And personally, I had like the gender thing going against me and also like my age. And I just really focused instead on instead of focusing on the feedback that was negative or like the people that were doubting what I was doing, I focused instead on the fact that I knew why I was doing what I was doing. I knew with like 100% certainty that I really wanted to be working in this field of like pushing for gender equality in tech and pushing for accessibility in technology education. And that really just made the voices of that like really irrelevant because I kind of honed in instead on the people that did believe in the vision that we were setting forth that do believe in like building a world where like all youth, regardless of their gender, socioeconomic status, have access to tech and the potential to use it for social good. And it's not an easy process, I think, overcoming self-doubt, but it's something that I think I am gradually like still getting better at day by day. And it helps that like I have a really great community through the 250 people that I work with throughout the organization. And I think slowly but surely, when you want to pursue an initiative, whether it's a startup or a nonprofit, like it's just really important to know the why you do what you do, and really just anchor yourself in that. But that would be my advice.
I love that. I love that. That's very, very good. And then you mentioned that you're in Stanford, right? And you're studying right now in Stanford. How old are you now? You started when you were 15. How old are you now?
So I am currently 19 years old and I turned 20 this year, which is exciting.
Woo! I do. So what are you currently doing in Stanford? And are you facing any challenges like with your age or your gender? Do you feel that that's kind of like shifted?
Yeah, so I'm currently a freshman at Stanford and I intend on majoring in science, technology, and society. I say intend on rather than like concretely because here at Stanford specifically and a bunch of US schools as well, we don't have to declare our majors until our second year. So I'm exploring kind of like the science, tech, and society track, but it's not 100% certain. Looking at minoring possibly in education, taking a couple of education classes this quarter and really enjoying those. I think overall, it's been just a really great experience studying here. And I think being exposed to like this multitude of people from different backgrounds and perspectives. And I have to say like the learning environment that I have here is so different from what I experienced in high school because I feel like a lot of the classes I was in high school, like people were there because they had to take it for like a requirement applied to a certain like college or like they were there because that's what was kind of expected of them to like be in that subject, to be in that classroom. Whereas at Stanford, I feel like there's much more like freedom of choice in the sense that I meet so many people that are passionate about whatever we're talking about. And that's just so refreshing. And I'm really like in love with like the learning environment we have here, like the curiosity that a lot of students have here, and just the willingness as well that for the people I meet to like learn about things that they're not experts at. Because I feel like a lot of people at my university at least like have like these very like niche interests. But what makes me really good friends with like the really good friends like I've like formed here is that they're open to like learning about the things that I'm really like nichely like interested in and like vice versa. So it makes for like really good conversation and just like really good like I think growth opportunities, which is what you really I guess look for when you go into college.
I love that. I love the curiosity statement. I think that's such a beautiful thing to be curious about life and be able to be vulnerable and also open enough to learn about new things. So love hearing that, Audrey. So let me I'll get Finn's in the conversation. So hi, Finina.
Hi, Dee.
So can you hear me?
Before even a question, I'd like to
Hi.
tell
So I think what we want to, yes, go for it.
Yeah, no, I just want to tell Audrey how inspiring her story is, and you know, she's younger than my youngest child, my youngest son, and if I were your parent, you must have really proud parents right now because of where you've gone and what you've achieved so far at the age of 20. Congratulations, Audrey.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, very, very inspiring.
Yeah, very inspiring indeed. Yeah.
So Vince, to get you in the conversation,
Sure.
you know, I think you've got so much knowledge within inside the telco industry, right? And we've all seen as the telco is like the most innovative industry or sector, because at the end of the day, this connectivity is what we all use to connect us all together and to do what Audrey's doing with tech, right? So I really wanted to kind of like understand from that telco industry and being so fast evolving, how did you evolve and how did you transform in the industry or within your role to keep up with that transformation?
Okay. Yes, we know that telco is so popular now only because everybody needs it, right? And as I said, to everybody I meet, I'm very, very happy that I had been given a chance to work for a telco as far back as 26 years ago, when telco was not even the buzzword. I think it is only now that telco has, gaining its popularity and awareness amongst everybody, only because nobody can live without it, right? Nobody can live without internet. Nobody can live without a cell phone on their hands. And it's one of the, I can leave my wallet, but I can't leave my phone, right? I mean, isn't that like a normal thing to
Exactly.
today? And yeah, right. So I'm very, very happy to have been part of an industry that is so relevant. And it was a not a roller coaster, but I'd like to say that it was a very challenging journey for me, because I really had to adapt to a very male, technically dominated industry. When you talk about telco, the first thing you think about is cable lines and cell sites and all these network jargon that I did not even know about. I'm not an engineer. Neither did I plan to or dream to be one. And it's funny that I ended up in a highly technical industry. But the years that I've been through the telco journey was actually a build up of different learnings and different insights that you go through. And the more you understand the business, the more you appreciate why it is so relevant, and it is so important. And at the end of the day, I evolved because I know that I am able to contribute, and that feeling of fulfillment that, I can give you your telephone and your internet line, and you can connect beyond borders to anybody that you want to connect with. That to me is already so fulfilling. And not only being a part of a company that can deliver that, but I was actually given the opportunity to even lead a team. Imagine, I was leading like over 200 male engineers, and I didn't know anything about engineering at all. And I don't want to go through my 26 years of telco, but I mean, it's gonna show my age, right? I don't want to do that. But I think the most fulfilling for me was really the last role that I held, which was um, operations, and I had to do and I was responsible for for doing installation and restoration of your connectivity lines, whether it be voice or data, internet, if I may. And that to me was fulfilling, because I know that I was making a difference. And just like Audrey mentioned earlier, it's it breaks barriers. It gives you that sense of relevance, that feeling that you are able to contribute to society, and you're able to make a difference in whatever you do. And that's why I strive very hard to learn it even more. Um, I had to ask, I had to question, I had to understand what the business is all about. Then I do it. And then you just repeat the process. I think that's what I went through. I asked because I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I try to understand it and imbibe it, and then I ask again if I don't know, and then I do, and then I just repeat the process. And in so doing, I start I start building my learning blocks and my my expertise. And I think today, as I said, I'm really a telco baby. I I eat it for breakfast now. The- um, and yeah,
And I
I
think
so much
I love
enjoy
that
the
statement, Fins, about, you having to relearn something.
yeah. I sometimes have to unlearn and then relearn, and that continued
Yeah.
learning process um, makes you who you are today, and it keeps you very much fulfilled, and that sense of fulfillment and contentment that um, you're up to date and up to speed with what's going on. That to me is
Hmm.
Bayan in itself is already like a feather in my cap, right? That I, especially now that it is so
Yeah.
relevant, it's it's a normal thing. It's a necessity. Sorry, it really is. When I started, it was only a luxury. To have a cell phone was a luxury. Today, nobody can live without it. So it has, I think it has evolved. It has turned around, and today it is something that you can't live without. So very happy to have been a part of that industry, really. One of the few. And not to mention, I'm also a
I love it.
lady who is not, and what Audrey said, I'm very happy for the company that I was with, that they were very open-minded in including ladies, including women for that matter, to be at the helm of leadership, to lead the
Yeah.
company into its objectives, in achieving its objectives. Whether you are a technical person or not, I was able to infuse my business side of into the mindsets of the engineers. And I think that the cross discipline that I was able um, to learn through the years, I was able to share down the line to the people that I worked with. There's that inclusive feeling that I was able to also feel within myself in the company,
Hmm.
that nobody has a monopoly of bright ideas, and it's nice to be able to know more about things around you, about the things that you do, and
Yeah.
it adds, as I said, I think it is added to my credentials already now. So you can ask me anything on telco, I should be able to answer it.
And I think that's such a running theme right now, right? That we all have to be knowledgeable in so many different sectors and outside of our specialties to be able to create those cross-disciplinary teams and really help us in the future, not only in our personal careers, but also in our own businesses. So I love that, Vince. How do you
Yeah,
approach learning new skills? Like, is there a methodology that you apply? Because you're an amazing golfer, right? And just so that everyone knows, Finz is like an incredible golfer. She's won so many awards. She's really one of a kind. So, on in her own tactic of learning golf, I want to know if you kind of apply that to learning skills. What is
to
that
a certain
tack?
extent, yes. Talking about golf, which is one of my greatest passions, um, it has learned me how to focus and how to strategize. It has given me that courage to be able to try new things. It made me be able um, to to learn that it's not always about winning, but it's how to put your heart to something that you love doing. And no matter what the result, it's because it's up to you and you are in control of the game. And the same way with work, you're in control of how the turnout of what you do will be. And if you want to learn, then go ahead, ask, study, and try to expand your knowledge. If you don't, then it's also up to you. But I think I took the former rather than the latter. I want, I want to remain relevant. And in doing so, I had to make sure that I was up to date, up to speed, and I was continuously learning. I would always continuously ask if I don't know. And I'm not afraid to ask, by the way. Even my staff, I'm not afraid to tell my staff, I'm not an engineer. You would know it better. Teach me. Teach me what you know so I will also know it. And, I think that's the attitude I take. And I think that one, the humility that I carry, even if I am the leader, I am not afraid of saying that I don't know. So help me. Um, I think we should be able to at least have that also in in the way that we do things.
Yeah, and I think that we see that, with Inside Third Pillar, the way that we try and onboard all our staff is that, we want them to have this entrepreneurial mindset and really be curious and ask questions. And that's how we solve our clients' problems and even our problems within our own teams, right? So I think that's something that's so great to echo for everyone. So thanks, Finn. Let me get Amor on the screen. Hi, Amor.
Hi, Dee.
So a new member, but someone that within the industry doesn't need much of an introduction. Amor has come from such a vast experience in large enterprise clients, and a lot of people know who Amor is, but I'd love her just to share with us, where she came from and how she kind of ended up in Third Pillar. And then from that, Amor, what I really want to get to know is, how did you transform? Because from your career, we're going to see, and you're going to kind of talk us through it. How did you transform to where you are now? And what advice would you give people that are constantly evolving within their own careers?
Sure. Well, I was just listening, of course, to Audrey and to Finina. And what I realized, especially with Audrey, because, we're, I don't know, decades away, right? But it's really amazing how the principles that she talked about, how being curious and really having an open mind for learning, um, that's very timeless. And that is, in fact, what has allowed me to really progress in, over my years and years of work experience. So to me, what has really helped me a lot is being naturally curious all the time. And I've heard you, Dee, also, when you try and summarize what Finina was also talking about, it's actually the same thing too. And it's really always wanting to push the envelope further. And I look at my experiences when I was first starting in Citibank. Citibank was the first bank that I joined. And I remember being very new. I believe it was my curiosity that kept pushing me to do better. I was being given a task. I really just wanted to explore every angle. And, I believe that that's how I was able to differentiate myself, right? And, it's timeless because even now, I'm in a new industry. it's still my curiosity that really needs to push me and is pushing me to make sure that I am still, at the top of my game, right? Because without being curious, I think we're all, I think that's the start of the decline of our personal growth. And so, really, being curious to me is a
Yeah.
very important foundation, regardless what stage of your career you're at. So, to a 19-year-old lady like Audrey, and even approaching seniors for us, I think it's still something that is, should be very much present, in our makeup, in our day-to-day makeup. So I'd say that would be the most, I think, important attribute that has really allowed me to always evolve and transform.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously for everyone's kind of knowledge, you've come from a financial industry into tech, but being in marketing, you've been able to be exposed to MarTech, right? And it's so prevalent right now. MarTech is like one of the biggest things that everyone is talking about because of the new norm. So IT is not something that's completely new to you, but for kind of like everyone's understanding, like how are you kind of approaching learning, a new industry altogether, and broadening that kind of like MarTech approach?
Yeah, so I think one of the similarities, I'd say, while of course I have never been in the IT industry or the tech industry, once you're always centered on the customer, you have to find ways by which to constantly, chase on the customer's needs, right? And in the process of doing that, you really are either wanting to understand how technology can be a part of that. And so while I really was not in the tech field, in the roles that I played in the past, having to introduce new products in the market, or having to set up a new channel, or really looking at partnerships that can create new business models, I think I naturally had to be sort of like attuned to that kind of an environment. So that's how I used to deal with it in the past. And so moving into telco didn't really feel very difficult. But of course, now that I'm in it, I'm really, my perspective has again changed a bit, because I realized that, again, there's constant learning and studying. I mean, nobody can teach me unless I'm willing to learn myself, right? So I need to do my self study. And that's never going to be enough. And I like Audrey, I still look for mentors, right? Mentors that can help me, because I think, we need to be, like what Finina said, humble enough to realize what our strengths and our skills are, and how we can further complement, right, our expertise. And I can't, I'm never going to be a tech expert. So I need to find somebody who will, be willing to take me through that journey. And I think important also is to have a very strong support system. All of us who've been working in the industry, I mean, corporate life, we all know that no matter how good we are individually, we're as good as the team that we have, right? So I think that is also very important. When we try to think of how we will evolve and how we will make sure that we're very successful in the field, that we're in today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another amazing lesson there is, us as women naturally, we lean on more of a collaborative approach where we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and tell people that we might not know everything. So therefore, let's get people that know a lot more than us, and let's collaborate and make sure that, as a team, we're stronger. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, especially it's so needed right now, right? Where expose that vulnerability, don't just kind of think that you know it all and then create problems later on. So running with that theme, ladies, I'm going to ask you, what is the one thing, like a life lesson that you could share with all of us? And we could start with
Can
you,
I?
Amol, because we've got you on
Yeah.
screen, and then we'll
Okay.
ask Fins
Yeah.
and then end with
I think
Audrey. Yeah.
right. I think my number one would always be to encourage people to really have the courage to speak up. I mean, and I feel this goes beyond gender or being inclusive or being female and all that. I think even if you're past that sometimes we tend to be very conscious of what it is that we will be saying, and we are already anticipating the reaction that we want to get. But I think it's important to keep in mind, especially for
Yeah.
our young leaders today, that you are speaking up to share your thoughts and to be heard, and you're not necessarily seeking for validation or for a like a happy like, or I mean, you're speaking to be heard, and hopefully being heard
Yeah.
will foster that kind of interaction, which is really what we want to happen when we do speak up. And this is a hard lesson that I've really learned, in along the years, and as I matured from one role to another. And oftentimes there are different reasons why you would sort of like think about whether you would want to speak up. Sometimes it's fear of being rejected. Other times it's fear of what your boss might say, fear of what your direct reports might say. But one thing I've learned is that remember that you're speaking and you're mustering up all the courage to speak up for yourself. I mean, first and foremost, it's for yourself. You want to be heard. And whatever the reactions that might come along, then it's the next phase. So I guess that would be the number one advice or
I
tip that
love
I
that.
would give.
Love that. Thanks, Amol. That's a brilliant one. Fins, what advice would you
Uh,
give?
with more, but I'd like to just say that I've always been one that have thought of controlling my own destiny. Um, Amor said it. Age is not supposed to limit you from wanting to learn more, especially in this very dynamic, agile, and ever-changing world that we're in today. Um, there's just too many things happening and too many things going on, and at the blink of eye of an eye, what was yesterday is not anymore the same as today. And can you imagine? I never thought that a 19-year-old can even put up, or a 15-year-old at that, could put up her own company and be so successful. It was not heard of during my time. I mean, at 15, I was probably like just playing outdoors or hanging out with my friends. But I think just like Audrey, who is such an inspiration, she took control of her destiny, and she is where she is today. And I think that's what I also want to share, that life's lessons: take control of what you want to be, where you want to be, and be there. Just claim it, and just make sure that if you want it, you will be able to get it, because nothing in this world is impossible for as long as you have an open mind and an open heart to go for it. So go for your big dreams, because there's no cost in dreaming, right? And one day you will achieve that.
Yeah.
And whether you are a woman or a man, or you're young or you're old, it does not have any limits. There's, as what Amor said, there's no branding, there's nothing limits us from doing what we want to do. And I think if we want it, just go for it. That's my life's lesson
I love it. Thanks,
that I'd like to
Fins.
share.
Thank you so much for that one. And Audrey?
So many come to mind, but I think definitely the biggest lesson that I've learned throughout these past 5 years now with VTech, which is crazy, is that you have to make opportunities for yourself. And I say this because I remember going to my first big tech conference back when I was around 15, 16, and it was this big tech conference back home in Manila. And when I stepped into the conference room, I just remember being so terrified because none of the people around me looked like me, and that they were mostly male, and there were like no other teenagers in the room, and I wanted to call my mom and tell her I wanted to go home. But I'm so glad that I didn't, because a part of me, a voice inside my head was saying that if I missed out on opportunities here, I would really regret it. So I went around, talked to representatives from startup booths, got a lot of surprised looks and all the whole how old are you kind of like joke. But I weathered through it, and I ended up watching this panel on the Philippine startup scene. And I noticed that of the panel, there was only one woman. I think of like 3 or 4 speakers, and I noticed that gender diversity in tech was not discussed at all. So I asked the question about it during the Q&A, and I elevator pitched VTech a bit to give context as to why I was asking about the gender gap in tech specifically and what initiatives were being done to achieve gender equality in the tech industry back home. And I remember vividly that my question was not answered very well. It was something along the lines of, "Oh, it's so great that young people are like showing interest in like issues as such." But so I was disappointed for a second. But right after, I remember, because I asked the question in front of the entire conference, I was approached by people asking for more information about VTech and people that wanted my calling card. And through that, I just so happened to be asking that question in front of a representative from the ASEAN Young Entrepreneurs Carnival organizers, and they wanted me to speak. And that ended up being my first speaking engagement to a crowd of over 4,000 entrepreneurs from across Southeast Asia. And to think that that opportunity would have never occurred if I didn't raise my hand, if I didn't ask a question,
Wow, amazing.
or if I decided to like do the conference hall. Thank you, because I was really nervous. So I think it's really important to put yourself in, or to weather through situations that make you uncomfortable but not unsafe, is what I would say. And to really just stick with your gut feeling and know when to listen to your gut and be like, okay, this is like too much, or when to be like, okay, this is like terrifying, but in kind of a good way. So really listen to your gut instinct, and also just know that I think those are the best opportunities to grow.
Good job.
Oh, thank you for that. And honestly, Audrey, is all. It's just so wonderful to hear how passionate you are and how driven, and that fearlessness that you have. Is something that we can all take away from this. So thank you so much. So, ladies, this is going to be a little spitfire round. So I'm going to ask you a set of 10 questions. It's just a one-word answer. So I'll start and kind of direct them with with Amor, because you're on my top right. So, okay, ready, Amor? One-word answer, right? So what keeps you passionate about achieving your goals?
I can. What is the question? What keeps us passionate
Your
about
connection. What keeps you passionate about achieving your goals?
the outcome, success?
I think we're losing Amor's connection.
Oh, she answered.
Yep. Finns, what is the one thing you what is the one thing you cannot go a day without?
My cell phone. My cell phone, being able to stay connected with people. D.
Audrey, what are you passionate right now?
Passionate. I'm passionate right now about really passionate people.
Good. Amor, what is the one book that you're reading that you can't put down?
Oh, I'm not reading anything right now, but I just finished one. It's called Indestructible, and I got attracted to it because it talks about how to control your attention span and how to choose your life. So you know, I just like I move from one topic to another. So that's the topic
Oh,
right now.
nice. Good. Finns, what movie do you recommend to others to watch right now? What are you watching?
Well, I love Money Heist. It's not a movie; it's a series. It's a movie of. I'm sure it's so popular and everybody
Oh,
must have
very
watched
good
it.
series. Yes.
Good planning, good strategy, good execution, and successful outcome.
Yeah, very good. Audrey, who do you admire in the industry?
I really admire Rashma Saujani. She set up this nonprofit called Girls Who Code, and they provide summer internships and programs for young middle school, I think high school girls that want to go into tech.
Yeah, brilliant. Amor, what have you learned from your role models?
Sorry, I cannot. What have I?
Learn.
What have you learned for role models?
Oh, what have I learned from role models? Oh, there's one that really captured my attention, and it was I can't remember who it was from, but when that person said kindness over righteousness. So I think just in general a life lesson, and especially when you're um, in a leadership position, and even for young leaders like Audrey, I think it's tough to keep that in mind. So I like to sort of like have that in front of me. So yeah.
Very good. Finn, what keeps you focused and motivated?
Um, I guess it's the feeling that anything I do makes me continue to be relevant.
I love that.
Sorry. Yeah,
I love
wanna
that.
be
Very
able-
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
make
love
a
that.
difference. Thanks.
Audrey, are you an extrovert or an introvert?
I am more of an extrovert. Yeah, surprise.
Very good. And then for all of you, in 3 words, how would you describe your leadership style?
Oh,
So,
I can
more,
start.
how would you describe your
Okay.
leadership style in 3 words?
I'd say firm. That's the first word. Firm, collaborative, and open.
Very good. Fins.
I think my leadership style is I develop, I delegate, and I empower. So it now becomes a more inclusive
Nice.
approach of leadership.
Audrey, 3
For
words to
me,
describe your leadership style.
it would have to be empathetic and open-minded. So I'll count the end as the third one.
That's amazing. So I just wanted to take this time to just conclude because I think look at the different personalities, ages, international waters. And I think it's such an incredible thing to know that no matter the age, no matter where we are, there is such a running theme about being curious and keeping that open mind to be able to learn and collaborate with one another. Talk about it with my team a lot, and there was a great masterclass from Chris Hadfield, who is the astronaut, and in that he talks about how in NASA you have to practice this thing called being a generalist, and this generalist term means that if they're in the International Space Station and they cannot get hold of NASA and something is wrong, they have to be able to know pretty much and know about everything in the spaceship to be able to save their life and have an action within 5 seconds to save their life. So they have to know enough about everything to be able to make those actions. And I love that because I think there's so many times where we're always taught you need to specialize in something, learn it to first, and don't kind of look outside of that because you will be that specialty. And I think more and more as we learn through, our different roles or experiences in life, we have to be exposed to so many different scenarios and different industries and different passions to be able to converse, to be able to make decisions, to be able to connect with people, right? So I love that. And I think that's such a running theme with all of us, right? That it is to be able to be curious and open and learn as much as possible so that you can form great decisions and create good passions. So ladies, thank you so much for providing us your time today. I've really, really enjoyed talking to each and one of you. And Audrey as well, and I encourage everyone that's watching this to go onto the YTech website. I can flash that on screen now, and see how we can support Audrey's advocacy, because I think it is something that we all need to shine a light on. And education and technology and closing that gender gap is something that we all want to help towards. So from Third Pillar, we're definitely going to extend our help and support Audrey to all of our audiences. Please go on the YTech website and see how we can support. And if you have any questions, please send your questions in. We'll have the panelists answer them, and we'll reply with answers. So once again, thank you to all of the ladies on the call, and thank you to all of our audiences.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deanna.
We wanted to say a quick goodbye from everyone.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye,
morning,
Audrey.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.